Going to start this evening in a seated posture, just to let ourselves settle. And doing this class at the end of the week, you get a chance to kind of let the whole week disappear and let go of it a little, which is quite nice. I do find in the evenings, palms down, it's a little bit easier on the nervous system and helps me settle in a little bit more, so maybe you'll find the same. And just tuning down the breath a little bit so it starts to slow. I can slow my thoughts down a little bit as well. I'm going to be here for a few minutes, just time to let that breath take its magic, and also maybe reflect on our week and what we'd like to get out of our class as well. Unwind the legs, stretch them out a little bit. Say hello to toes and ankles, back to the knees fraction as well, and then we'll move up onto all fours. So I have the block towards the front, now to the side. And all fours position, and move into cat-cow. So just allowing myself to roll the shoulders back a little bit, tailbone towards the sky, and then draw the belly in a little more effectively. And round the spine up towards the sky. Just give it a slow, gradual stretch into the spine. Now we'll breathe at different rates. So your idea of slow, mine might be very different. But as long as it feels slow, comfortable in your body, you start to feel your spine unwinding a little bit. If you wish to, you can take it into a couple of barrel rolls as well. Just pushing it out to the side a little bit. And we'll move from there into child's pose. So I'm just going to bring the toes together, keep the knees pretty much the same distance apart, take the hands out, and the forehead comes on the ground. Now I'm not being entirely still in this child's pose, I'm sort of wriggling around a little bit, so stretching out the latissimus dorsi from side to side, getting a little bit of a wriggle in through the shoulders. There's nothing wrong with you being absolutely static in this pose if you feel that you need to kind of decompress in your body a little bit. But this week has been quite strong physically. The classes have been quite demanding. I still need to kind of just warm up a little bit and move things around. So whatever fits to your requirements, just listen to your body. Follow your instincts. Allow myself to come back up through the forwards. Make sure the fingertips are right on that front edge of the mat. Roll the shoulders back a little bit as the toes underneath and ease myself into down dog. And again, you can move around in your down dog. Be nice and static. It's your choice. And then from this down dog, we're going to move into a plank wave. Return back into down dog. So the way we're going to do that, so on the exhale, we'll start to bend the knees until the thighs are more as vertical. Draw the belly in, and then roll the spine up towards the sky as we push forwards into a plank. Take a little breath when the shoulders are over the wrists. Use the abdominal muscles and the shoulders to press back into down dog. And then just repeat. Draw the belly in on the exhale. Roll it through. Nice breath in. Lift up. Roll back. Soften the knees. Roll through the spine. Back into your down dog. Couple more. Again, this is something that you want to work with your own breath. So you might be moving quicker or slower than me. That's not a problem. For me, this is the last time coming forwards. And I'm going to bring the knees to the ground, bring the elbows to the floor, and then just walk the feet back gently. So I'm almost into Sphinx pose, but I'm going to bring the chest to the floor and let the hands come down a little more towards the bottom of the ribs. Squeezing the elbows together a little bit, taking that into a low cobra, just flowing up gently. So on the lift, so that the bottom rib is staying connected with the ground. And if I can, roll the heels out slightly, thighs in, legs away, and pressing down as well. Come down to the floor. Going to change that into a gecko pose. So I'm going to take the hands out wide as if I'm doing a press up, but then come up onto the fingertips, shoulders back. And this time it's an exhale, pressing into the fingertips, lengthening the body forward to lift up. So now the ribs are well and truly away from the ground. Inhale on the way down. Exhale. On the way up. To see how that feels in the lower back. Trying to get some length and space in the spine. And then we'll bring the hands all the way to the bottom of the ribs, peel away from the floor. Knees forwards, feet go through to the front of the mat. So we're going to come down into the ground, lying on our back. Want a little bit of room behind you. Allow yourself to bring your heels in towards your bottom, and then just draw your left knee in towards your body. Slide your right heel out. Allow yourself to lengthen out through this long leg, pressing out through the heel. Rolling the thigh in a little bit so the toes point towards the sky. Try and draw your abdominal muscles down in towards your spine and your lower back into the ground a little bit. And press the shoulders back into the floor just a touch. I'll find that your bent knee wants to travel out towards your armpit a little bit. That's fine. You want to try and keep your body really flat and square to the ground. So you're using both hands to draw this knee. Release that foot to the floor. Slide it out so both legs are together on the center line. And then just gently draw the other leg in. Hands around the shin. I'm going to roll the thigh in a little bit as you press out through the long leg. And just gradually encourage your bent knee closer towards your body and let it travel to wherever it needs to go. Keep the belly drawn in a little bit so it's active. Press both shoulders down into the floor. You're trying to keep both shoulder blades into the ground. I do appreciate that your hands are over to the side a little bit and right down the center of your body. So drawing the left shoulder blade down to the floor a little more. Take a bit of concentration. Release that foot to the floor as well. This time we're going to bring both feet in towards the body and take the feet about hip distance apart. Knees same as well. So hopefully the knees are over the top of the heels, shins are vertical, and the hands are alongside the body. We're going to come into bridge pose. Make sure that neck is nice and long. Roll the shoulders underneath a little bit. Tuck the tailbone up towards the sky, get the lower back to connect, and then start to press down through the legs as we lift up on the exhale. Press into the arms as well, and the shoulders, and draw the knees forwards. Take one breath at the top. Allow yourself to roll your spine down so it peels away from the floor on the way up, and it reverses that process up on the way down. So it feels like you can distinguish every bone in your spine gradually getting longer, space is opening up, and bone by bone coming back into contact with the floor, just in the way that it left the ground as well. So tucking those hips underneath. Time for another couple. As you arrive back, allow yourself to take your arms out wide. Just wriggle your heels back into the center line with those feet even closer in towards your body. And we'll take a little twist over towards the left side with the legs. Head to the right, keeping the shoulders on the ground. We are going to try and keep the thighs together, which means you need to squeeze the top thigh down to meet the bottom thigh, which you're allowing to drop down as close to the floor as you can. Now, if the legs aren't absolutely together, that's not a problem. It's the intention and the feeling, the muscles of drawing the knee over and down to the floor, a little deeper into the twists. And the breath here, and allow the knees to come back up. Realign yourself if you need to, and then take yourself over to the other side. And normally when I'm doing this sort of pose in the earlier part of the sequences, I would relax the legs entirely. But today, we're trying to get those legs to press in, thighs to squeeze together. Feel it a little differently around the lower back, across the top of the hips, the back. The reason for that is that trying to wake the bodies up and deepen the body stretch ability for crow and twisted crow. So we'll be using it for another 30 minutes or so. This will be useful. Okay, bring the knees back up. Lengthen the leg one at a time out down the center line of the mat with the legs together. Bring your hands alongside your body. Now draw your belly down in towards your spine and your lower back to the floor. And as you inhale, allow yourself to take your arms up towards the sky. On the exhale, allow yourself to flex your toes towards you. Squeeze the thighs in and drop the hands towards the mat behind you. Try and keep your lower back to the floor. Inhale the hands back up. And then as they come towards the hips, you're going to point the toes away and squeeze the thighs inwards again towards each other, just rolling the thighs in. Allow yourself to bring the hands up, as your fingers stretch to the ceiling, the feet start to flex, toes come towards you, you roll the thighs in heavily and drop the arms to the floor behind, keeping your lower back as close to the ground as you can. Come back up, toes point away. Hands go towards the hips, roll the thighs in. Lift up, flex the toes back, press out through the heels, drop the hands behind. Inhaling up, lengthening the toes away, rolling the thighs. Coming up for the last time. Rolling back. As you bring your hands back up towards the sky, slide your heels in and allow yourself to come into a position to hug yourself. Just wrapping the arms gently. Taking a little breath from there. A bit of a roll on the spine. And allow yourself to roll gently over to the right side. Press the hands into the floor. Scoot around a little bit. So feet towards the back of the mat. We'll come up onto hands and knees. Take a little breath from there. Tuck the toes underneath. Allow ourselves to bring the feet into that the middle of the mat. Just slowly walk the hands in towards the body. So coming into our forward bend. Just trying to line myself up gradually on the mat. And pressing the feet down. Sending the hips up, so the back of the legs are starting to get straighter. Fingertips stay on the floor, and the head is hanging down. Just let that stretch develop in the body. Bring hands onto the hips, up on the knees a little bit. Allow ourselves to lift up. Bring the hands in towards the heart. Just bring the toes together again. Soften the knees over the toes. Sit gently back. Allow yourself to tuck the tailbone forwards a little bit. So you're scooping the belly in and getting a little more roundness in this lower part of the back. Upper part of the back is flat and long. And then allow yourself to extend your hands out, following the line of your body into a chair pose. Squeeze the thighs together. We'll sit down a little deeper. Bring the hands in towards the heart. We'll take it into a revolve version. So we'll take the left elbow over to the right. And the body out a little bit from the pelvis. Just press the hands lightly together. Roll the shoulders back. Make some space across the chest to breathe in. You can look to the side or you can look to the floor. Whatever you find easiest. But you are trying to keep the knees together and the hips and pubic bone all over the center line of the mat. So be conscious whether you are spinning out to the side. Allow yourself to rotate around gently. Bring yourself into the opposite side. Realign your body to that center line. Bring hands to the floor as we open up the legs a little bit. Walk the fingers to the front of the mat. Walk the feet to the back into your down dog. Take a little breath from here and draw your left knee in towards your body. Bring the foot through into a lunge. Allow your back knee to come down to the floor. And so press the back shin into the ground a little bit as you come up onto the fingertips. Draw the hands alongside the body, draw the belly in as you lengthen the arms out in front and allow yourself to lift. And take the hands behind your back, interlace your hands, draw them towards the back of the mat, lift them as high as you can. And also try and draw your chest up towards the sky so you come into beginnings of a little back bend there and shoulder opening. Release the hands, take them out wide and up to the sky, down to the floor. Step back into our down dog. And then draw the right leg in, bring that through, knee down, and tuck the toes. Get onto the fingertips and the hips sink a little, hands alongside the body, float up. Use the hands towards the back of the mat. Rotate the hands around so we can interlace the fingers. Again, lift the chest, draw the hands high. So the amount of back bend that we get is limited by the fact that we're trying to draw our hands towards the ceiling behind us. One more breath in. On the release of the exhale, hands come out wide and up to the sky, and down to the floor. Tuck the toe on the back foot, step into the front of the mat for a forward bend. Bring hands onto the hips. Let ourselves lift up again. We'll take the hands high. Long breath in through the heart and exhale down to the floor. As you arrive, step that left foot back to the back of the mat again. Now the back knee down to the floor. Swing the hands towards us again as we draw the belly in. Turn the hands high. This time I'm going to turn the palms forwards and lock the thumbs together. So we've got a kind of butterfly wing effect. I'm taking a side bend out to the left, the open side. Trying to lengthen out of the pelvis, stretching the fingers out to the side. Bring ourselves back in, turn the thumbs over the opposite way. Take it into the right side. You're going to feel that left hip flexor and front thigh, rear thigh stretching on that left side. Back into the center. Allow the hands to come to the floor. Step it back into our down dog. Draw the opposite knee forwards. The left leg comes in, back knee comes down. Onto the toes, swing the hands towards. Inhale up. Cross the thumbs. Out towards the right. Into the center. Cross the thumbs over the other way. Take it over to the left. Back into the center, hands down to the floor. Take a little breath. So step into the forward fold. Hands come onto the hips. Lift up. Inhale high again. Hands into the heart. Exhale down to the floor. Taking the left foot to the back of the mat. Come into a high crescent this time. So we're just going to bring the hands alongside the body, find our balance point, lift a little off of the thigh, float the arms forwards with the hands parallel to each other. Ease our way up slowly. Now bring the hands in towards your heart with elbows out wide. Rotate your body gently over towards the right side. Allow yourself to bow forwards. And bring yourself into a twisted revolve version. So again, you can look to the side or look to the floor. Try and roll the shoulder blades back a little bit. Again, make some space to breathe into on the side of the body. Press out through the back heel. As the hands down to the floor, step back into our down dog. Draw the left leg through the front of the mat onto those fingertips. Again, high crescent, so the hands come alongside. We lift a little, float the arms out, draw the body up. So send the tailbone down, draw the belly in. Hands in towards the heart. Gradually rotate round to the left. Allow yourself to come into the fold. And you can really start to walk into that back leg and press it out, heel towards the sky. Lift the body off of the thigh a little bit. Press the hands together. Roll the shoulders back just a fraction. Remember to breathe. Bring hands to the floor, take a little breath, and step back into our down dog. Roll the hands in towards the toes. So we're coming into a forward bend at the back of the mat. Fold it in nice and deep. Ease the hands onto the hips, shoulders and elbows back as we lift the soft knees. Shake it all out. And travel all the way to the front of the mat again. The hands in towards the heart. Hinge over the hips, down to the floor. Sending the left foot to the back of the mat. Nice deep lunge. Now we're going to take the left hand to the floor and let the back knee come down to the ground. And we're going to windmill the right arm. So we're going to take it forwards first of all. And then we'll lift it up towards the sky. And rotate the chest and thigh in towards the center line. Take the hand towards the back of the mat as we watch it. Eyes and fingers connect. Drag the hands down towards the floor along the ground. And then float our way back up again. So these are really long, slow windmills. We're trying to take the slow breath all the way to the sky. And a slow exhale all the way back. 2 more. Allow the hand to come down to the floor, back onto the fingertips, and tuck the toe on the back foot and lift the back knee. Drop the heel in, bring ourselves into warrior 2. Hands alongside the body. That left hand comes forwards and up. We're going to take that into reverse warrior. Come forwards into warrior 2. And then extend out over the front thigh. We'll take a breath and bring the bottom hand down to touch the floor. Just on the fingertips will be enough. Take a breath, press away, and lift back up. Bring hands in towards your heart, down to the floor we go. We'll step it back to down dog. We'll come forwards into plank, half plank and up dog. I knew they'd be there somewhere. So lifting up, long, strong legs, all over the boot laces back into the ground. Scissor the right leg to the sky. Draw the knee in and through for lunge. On the fingertips, we'll take a breath and we'll step forwards. Hands onto the hips, we'll lift up. Take hands high again on the breath in and gently down to the floor. Taking the breath, right foot to the back of the mat. Knee to the ground, right hand to the floor as we untuck the toes. Left hand comes forwards into those big circles, super windmills. It's rolling round. Take one more of those. Remember, we're trying to squeeze the thigh and the body together as we rotate as well. So drawing it much in towards the center line. Hand comes to the floor, back on the fingertips, back knee lifts, drop the heel in, warrior two. So take that long, strong, dynamic lift. Come up, turn the palm on the front hand for that reverse flow. Come slowly back into your warrior two. Breath in, extend out on the exhale, continue to exhale all the way to the floor. Fingertips, take a breath, ease our way back. Hands into the heart, rotate down to the ground. Step back into our down dog. One more plank, half plank and up dog. From there, we'll bring ourselves into a plank and let the knees come to the floor and sit back into child's pose. Slowly come forwards and up. And take a little breath into our down dog. We're going to move towards the back of the mat, so we'll just walk the hands in. Folding in nice and deep. Bring the hands onto the hips and soft lift up. Now, ideally, your feet are parallel and hip distance apart. If not, just adjust them until they are. Allow yourself to find something to focus on out in front. It's not going to move. And bring your hands in towards your heart. You're going to take a little breath here and soften the knees over the toes. Then we're going to sit back a little deeper and shift the weight into the left foot. And bring in the right knee high and start to flex the toes towards the knee and bend the knee to the outside so I can rest the shin across the front thigh. So it's a figure four, but just a standing version. You keep the spine long. Just try and sit down even deeper and see if I can bring the forearms, the elbows to the inside of that shin. Just bring the fingers to the floor. So we'll allow itself to bend down gently. Now, if you get the hands flat to the floor, great. But it's more the standing pose and the leg out to the side that we're worried about. Don't worry, we're not going to lift from here. And sort of lengthen your body out of the pelvis. Draw the belly in. One more breath, and then we're going to start to lift. So bring the hands back in towards the heart. Ease our way up. Untangle the legs. Whew. Bring those feet back into parallel hip distance apart. Give them a little shake out. Couple of breaths can be invigorating a pose. Challenge might be another word. Now, if you do have tight ankles, that's really kind of strong on them. You want to try and keep your knees pointing forwards in the same direction as your feet, and hopefully your feet are pointing in the same direction as your hips towards the front of the mat. Bring the hands in towards the heart. We'll soften the knees over the toe and load into the right leg this time. Allow ourselves to sit back a little deeper. Lift the left foot, flex. Take it over to the side. Find the balance. Take a breath. Knees forwards a little lower. See if we can get the arms over in front of the shin. Bring the fingers as steadily as you can down to the floor. It was a little quicker than I wanted to be. And then try and square everything up to the front of the mat. Now, if you're able to sit down lower than me, then fine, it's not a problem. I'm keeping the flex foot towards the knee, pressing the shin and the lower part of the ankle into the back of the arms. And I'm actually trying to draw the body forwards out of the pelvis. Again, try not to let the head drop. It just puts extra strain into the shoulders and makes it more difficult to breathe in. We'll take a little breath from there, lift a fraction. Try and bring the hands in towards the heart. Lift yourself steadily. Whew. And untangle. So that's definitely woken the legs up. A little shake out. Swoop the arms up high as we breathe in. Bring in towards the heart and let ourselves hinge down to the floor. Walk the fingers in to the very front end of the mat again. Down dog. I'm going to take the feet wide. Walk the hands in far enough for the heels to touch the floor. So I'm still in down dog, lifting the hips up and back. I'm going to take the right hand from the floor to the outside of the left ankle. I'll rotate around. Try and keep the legs straight and the heels on the ground. So the reason for me breathing out through the mouth, which you may be able to hear, so I'm trying to let some heat out of my body. We'll bring the hand back onto the ground and then move over to the second side. Still lifting up and back, pressing the heels and the soles of the feet into the floor. And bring hands back. Ooh. We'll bring ourselves into child's pose. I'm going to take the hands towards the back of the mat, so close to my toes, and just let those shoulders relax a little bit. Forehead on the ground. Doesn't reach, just take a block, place that underneath. Allow yourself to breathe into the back of your ribs. Get the idea of drawing your belly in this compressed state. We'll take a breath from there. Let ourselves lift up. And come onto all fours. Just take that flat block, place it behind the toes, and then tuck the toes underneath, using the feet to be about the same distance apart as the block is wide, and roll into a squat. Let the heels come to the ground. Well, the knees to go out wide into a squat. Sitting down nice and low, and get the arms onto the inside of these thighs. And taking the hands out a little wider than the shoulders, so just fingertips on the floor to start with. Getting ourselves used to the idea of where we are on the mat. So we are going to lift up into crow. So the first one will be when we bring the hands flat to the floor. We will squeeze the knees and the legs onto the back of the arms, and we'll try and open the chest and get this kind of movement of expansion, of opening out the arms. So the legs and the arms are working against each other. They should lock in nicely. Now, if you've not done crow before, one thing I would suggest to do is to practice before you try and come into it. So there's lots of different ways. If your neck and your feels nice and strong, you could literally use your head in crow pose. So just to demonstrate how you would prep if you're really beginning with this, or you just want to improve your confidence. Take the hands flat to the floor, squeeze those knees in a little bit, lift up onto more of the tippy toes. Allow yourself to lift your bottom up high, and as you do, carefully with control, bring your forehead down to the ground. Now you're not going to take the feet away from the ground, but you are going to lift your bottom up as high as you can, and then press your hands into the floor to push yourself back up. The idea of that is it starts to get you some confidence in the balance of being upside down, but also gets to strengthen these shoulder girdles that you can press away from the floor. So not only can you hold yourself up, but at will you can move away from the ground or lower yourself down with the arms without them feeling like they're going to buckle underneath and taking a face plant. So now we've discussed that, time to lift up. You'll take the hands forwards, lift the knees as high up into the back of the armpits as you can. If you're coming with me into this sort of not the prepping version, but the higher version, you're going to lift the bottom up anyway. Bring your elbows more over your wrists. Allow yourself to lift your hips high, and then slowly draw the heels in towards your bottom. I'm just going to hold it for a few breaths. And let the feet come back down and roll it back down. So hopefully that was fun. Just shake out the wrists and forearms a little bit. So you can either prep with that. You can do the same thing, taking 1 foot at a time away from your floor. Well, we're ready to do number 2. So we're going to come forwards again. Take a little breath. Lean in, squeeze the thighs, lift up. Take the body just that little bit forwards. Squeeze the heels in towards the bottom. Try and hold for a few seconds. Oh, lost my breath there. And come back down again. So that's crow pose. I'm going to move into the side version. To do that, I'm going to move forwards a little bit more towards the front of the mat. I'm going to bring the feet together and squeeze the thighs together as well. And take the hands slowly around to my left side. And you're going to be able to get this arm to be pressing into the side edge of this leg here. Now, if you're struggling to get the rotation round, you could actually take it by taking one arm up and rotating across. And sometimes that gets you a little further, a little deeper. But we're trying to keep the legs relatively close together and taking the hands out that shoulder distance apart. Now, if you're struggling to get into the rotation, work on that. Don't take it to the next step. But if you're able to get round okay, and you feel like you can get some sense of bracing the leg and the arm together, taking the rear hand, I take it a little further out and a little further forwards, just because it tends to sort of move around a little bit in my sideways crow pose. So that works for me. Hands to the floor. Take a little breath. You're going to lean in slowly. Lean over. Take the weight away from the floor. And lift the toes away from the ground. Again, try and take a few breaths. And then see if you can bring the feet back to the ground. A level of control, and hopefully somewhere near where you started. Just wipe the sweat off the hands a little bit. Squeeze the thighs together, and then we'll take it gently around to the opposite side. Again, just taking our time. Sometimes we're a little tighter on one side of the body than the other. So again, we just walk it around. Make sure we feel happy. Now, just leaning out a little bit, one hand to the ground, one hand a little further forwards and out. Take a breath, allow yourself to lean in. Lift one foot away from the floor, then the other, squeeze the thighs together. And then back, all the way to the ground. You sit on the floor, and then the legs out. Kind of let all those twists and turns through the spine and the abdomen and all the internal organs untangle themselves with a nice friendly staff pose, Dandasana. Just roll the shoulders back a little bit. They tend to hunch around a little like when we do crow pose. So it's nice to open up the front of the chest and the shoulders, track the shoulder blades a little bit. Let the breath come back down again. Quite a stimulating pose. Creates lots of energy and heat in the body. Now you know why I was trying to get rid of some earlier on. Well, there's nothing wrong with sweating in your poses. I'm just trying to catch my breath a little bit so I can talk and do. Pressing the sitting bones down lightly, drawing the belly in, rolling those thighs together. Almost there. More breaths. Now just cross the ankles over and back a little bit. Bring the knees through and in, roll over, untangle. Take ourselves into a down dog. We'll come forwards. Push forwards into the plank. Half plank, bootlaces down. Take our final up dog. Roll the shoulders back to our down dog. Again. I'm going to let the knees come to the floor. Spin the feet out towards the front of the mat. Ease our way down to the ground. I'm going to take the block underneath the back of the head. There's nothing wrong with you having your head flat on the ground. Just I find this a little bit easier on my neck and my shoulders. I'm going to wriggle those feet in nice and tight, close to the body. Take a little breath, draw my left leg in towards me. Take hands around the back of the thigh. Extend that up towards the sky. And just walk the right foot forwards gently, using the toes to inch one through, and then slide the heel out. And I'm actually trying to press out through both heels, turning the rotation in the long leg, so thigh into the center. Trying to draw the tailbone towards the front of the mat. Trying to press the shoulders into the ground a little bit just behind me, and draw the belly in towards the spine and lower my back into the floor. Release the feet back down to the ground. Allow myself to come into the second side. So the leg goes high. Inchworming toes forwards. until it's easy to slide your heel on the ground. So we do that because we want to keep the weight of the leg attached to the floor. We're not putting a shock into the lower back. Lengthen the tailbone away, legs away, draw the belly down and roll the shoulders easy to the ground. And release from there as well. Just bringing gently both legs in towards the body, and take hands on top of the knees, and finish off with a nice gentle circling of the knees and getting a little tilt through the pelvis, a little tuck through the tailbone, a little bit into the hips as well. And some movement into the shoulders. Let's see if I can rotate the opposite way. And then just fun, we'll see if we can get one knee to go in one direction, one in the opposite. And then again, change that round. The hands, the feet back to the floor. Ready for Shavasana. Just slide the heels along the ground, corner edges, turn the palms up, relax into the ground. So you can move the block out from behind the head or leave it there, it's your choice. Soften the jaw, the lips a couple of times. Taking a final little wriggle through the fingers and toes and hips and shoulders. Just allowing the spine to lengthen out, sink to the ground a little bit. So the spine is going to decompress and change shape just a little bit as we sit here. You might feel the odd clunk as the spine gaps itself. So begin to stretch those fingers and toes. Wrists and ankles begin to move as we breathe a little deeper and gently bring our nervous system back in connection with our mind and the rest of our body and our breath. Take a long stretch out when you're ready. And soft and gentle. Slide the heels back in. Floor. So keep the nervous system soft. Let the knees come in towards the body for a very gentle hug. Don't have to rock and roll. But it feels good. And finally, we roll onto our right side, keeping the knees in towards the body. Take a breath in. With the exhale, press the hands into the floor. Yeah, slowly back. And into a seated posture, sitting tall. Hands coming towards the heart. Take a breath in. As we begin to exhale, let the chin drop. As we feel the belly draw to the spine, we simply bow to the floor, sealing our practice for the evening. We inhale, and the spine build with the breath. The head finally lifts, the eyes open, and we'll stay. Thank you very much for joining me on the mat this evening. Hope to see you again soon.